p.m. on Tuesday, May 11th, and our CDA meeting will please come to order. You take roll call, please.
Wayne Clark.
Yes.
Karen Gale.
Here.
Jim Lisinski.
Here.
Don Namer.
Here.
Alderman Weigel.
Here.
Alderman Haas.
Here.
Jerry Motter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. First thing on the agenda, approval of the minutes of our previous meeting on April 13th. Is there any additions to the meetings, amendments? If not, can I have a motion to accept?
Already got a second on that.
Oh, I got it. We're real fast. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Minutes stand approved.
That's our goal.
And that motion and second stand for the rest of the year.
Okay. Item 2, resolution to approve amendment for West Allis Brewing Property LLC development agreement.
Mr. Chair, at the last meeting, we approved the development agreement, and then when it went to common council, we had one change, and the council adopted that change, but the CDA did not yet, and I brought it back tonight. It's a simple amendment. There's a clause within the development agreement that talks about the right of first refusal being 10 years for a period of time. We switched it to 6 years at the request of the brewery. So our city attorney advised that that needed CDA approval.
So
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes.
And some might be wondering, have we closed on this yet? Not yet. It's expected to be either coming at the end of the month or early June. The SBA is backed up with all the federal programs that have been coming out and helping businesses. So the approval times at the SBA are around 18 days, if not longer. So I just thought I'd share that. That it's taking a little longer. I did get some inquiries from the title company today, so things are starting to proceed towards closing.
Okay. Thank you. Item number 3, resolution to approve amendment to financial real estate consulting services with SB Freeman Development Advisors in the amount not to exceed $25,000. Patrick, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
question for
Clark.
Patrick. On an annualized basis, how much are we paying Feldman?
I think our last one was last October or November. We approved $20,000. We're probably spending around $50,000 annually, but it's a mixture between what was the city and what went to fire. In this case, this one we're bringing to the CDA here, mainly because they've been helpful in negotiating and reviewing the performance that Mandel have been prepared. And at this point, we need to. And Scott Yelk, and all our TIF districts, they look at the numbers, they evaluate it with us, and look at market conditions and things like that. Right now, they are modeling the Mandel deal based on performance numbers that we received. So we need to increase their scope right now with funding in order to finish that project.
Since you're bringing this forward, you must feel that you get good value.
We get very good value. They're very accessible and provide quality information to us. And you'll see that as when these deals come up, we'll share what SB Freeman is recommending, and they'll help us structure the negotiations. I think they were very important into the structuring of NONA with Mandel, in which we actually received a lot of the money back so far to date, and they were instrumental in helping us structure that development agreement.
I'd move approval.
Second.
Then move approval and second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Item number 4, resolution amending a contract with Rambo Environment providing professional environmental service for the property located at 6749 West National Avenue, which is located within the 68th Street Mitchell Street redevelopment area. TIF number 14 in the amount not to exceed $16,000.
Mr. Chair, same question for Patrick regarding this.
Again, very accessible, very good information in terms of helping us on the deals with the environmental. This is the scope to finish up, get everything done so that we can get the DNR approval to sign off on the plan that the brewery has put together, and that was the agreement that we said we would do. We need to submit documents to the DNR, because there's fill material, and then all the soil management plan for the dirty dirt that's at the site. So very accessible, providing us good information, getting the tasks done. And again, we could probably do a RFP for services, but they know how we operate. They have the insurance and everything that we need. So.
And again, what's the annualized run rate with these folks?
It varies per site. probably around the same amount. Depends on the site. I mean, they're working on the 116th and Morgan on a site, and I think that's around, I think we approved $75,000 there to do a site investigation. So it varies per the site. And I thought we provided that list previously of our open contracts, but we can share that again.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Did you have something to say?
Yeah, on Ramble on this one, what we provided in January, that we'd spent $80,000 for their environmental services on
Various
at least
sites.
7 different sites between 2019 and 2020. So we can give you an update on that, Wayne, if you'd like.
All right.
Sure, I'd like to have that in front of us, keep that in front of us.
Do they do physical testing, like drilling and boring, or is it records, or what do they do?
So like for soils and stuff, they have to look at the lab reports. So they subcontract out to do
Okay.
the drilling. Then they take the soils and look at the vapors.
So that's all wrapped into this.
And then they write the reports that have to go to the DNR
Right.
and do research on sites and things like that.
So they because it says professional services, but it includes technical work.
Yes.
It's a lot of back and forth with the DNR to get those sites, to be developable.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion? If not, it's been approved for a second. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes.
I think we have to, Mr. Chair, we have to note that Mr. Weigel has the greatest tan for April or for May that anyone has.
I already said that to him.
I was skiing in Utah, so that helps.
So he had an early start.
Yeah, got a pace.
Pretty sunny out there, huh, on the skis?
Skiing in shorts.
Okay, thank you. Item number 5, resolution to authorize acquisition of 1606 South 59th Street for construction of affordable single-family house funded with federal home funds. Patrick, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, as you recall, the CDA manages, the city receives an allocation of home funds through the Milwaukee County Home Consortium. Those funds are used to create affordable housing. Now, we do several different things with these funds. We can help home buyers. We can do housing rehab with homes. We can also put money into apartment developments as long as they create affordable units for individuals, and I'll show you the income limits for that here in a second. But this is that the county has a parcel at 1606 South 59th Street that we can buy, and then we can build an affordable house, sort of like one we have currently under construction on National Avenue, 9235 West National. And we built these around the city, and they usually have a good value when they're done. Yes, we heavily subsidize the construction, but that's why we receive home funds, is to create these affordable units. We have around $580,000 in program income right now. The county wants us to draw this money down as soon as possible. So we're looking at buying this parcel and building a new single-family house. I think we here's the parcel. It's was foreclosed. I think it might have been foreclosed on, and then they tore down the building because it was in bad shape. Here's the income limits of individuals who are meeting the income requirements to buy the house. The homes usually fit in really well into the neighborhood and are energy efficient. I did send the concept of this to both aldermen in the district, did not receive any comments. I bring this to your attention tonight as a recommendation that we buy this parcel and we work towards bidding out a single-family home for construction. We can change the look of the house. We have a couple different examples, but these are recent ones that we have either under construction or have built.
Hey, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah, we're going to be paying more for the house than it's actually going to be sold for, but that's all right. That's what we know we're getting ourselves into. We want to have a quality product.
Right.
We want to have something good there. Roughly, what are the numbers of what we're going to be spending for this house versus the sale price of the house?
So the estimate construction cost of a 4-bedroom home is around $359.
Okay.
The buyer price $170, $180, based on the incomes where they're at today.
In this market, even?
Yes.
It's probably higher based on Home Depot too.
But we have to sell it
We have to sell it to
to
somebody.
somebody with a certain
Right,
income
and it'll
limit.
have a deed. There's 2 deed restrictions that go on the property. One, if they sell it early and they make equity, a portion of that has to come back.
Oh.
And then we also have the affordability clause. So someone who buys it also has to meet the income requirements. So those are on the deed. So
So for how long does that
That's
the
20
case?
years.
20 years? Really? That seems long. But,
well, that's the federal requirement for
oh,
home.
well, that'll explain it.
Right. So that's, those are some of the nuances of building the affordable homes. But at the end of the day,
You end up with a nice
I
property.
think you get a nice house that fits well within the neighborhood.
A couple in my district are nice.
Right.
Single-family homes are,
The other choice is
backbone
if we don't do it, your choice is to do nothing.
yeah.
And we have
And the
a
money
lot.
can go back, the county, the program income that we made will go back to Milwaukee County and they'll reallocate it to one of their
Other
projects.
Yeah.
But we've been successful and we make income. And the problem with the federal program is that you have to use all your program income first before you can use any of your actual award money. So we haven't been receiving in the last 2 years any award money under the consortium, which is estimated around $300,000, because we have so much program income. Because you can't use grant money unless you draw down all your program income, and it affects the consortium. So we're kind of the outchild of this, so on how this all works.
We're just
so.
too efficient.
Yeah, or something. We're making money on the ones that we sell back. So that, if we sell that, we're making the 100 and some back that we have to put back into another project.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mr. Niemeyer.
I recognize kind of the box we're in, we use it or lose it type of thing. I just can't support spending that kind of money to sell for half. So I get where we're at in terms of the box we're in. I just can't support it.
Well, I
So-
somewhat
so-
agree with you, but the
So right
alternative isn't too
now,
great.
right now, as far as property taxes on this, well, it's owned by Milwaukee County, so the
There's
city
none.
gets nothing. And
None of the
so,
taxing, but
Right.
nobody's receiving any.
right, so the assessed value is estimated for property tax purposes, even though it's going to cost us $359, is it based more off of selling?
They're hitting in the exact 180, in the 150 to 160 range, depends on what year they were built.
Yeah.
They all have hit that in terms of assessed value.
Okay.
In fact, uniquely, I just went and, a few years ago, went and did a valuation on my own house, and as a comp, they used one of the ones that we built. And I was intrigued.
And you have a nice house.
Yes, I was intrigued. Seeing that it was one of the other higher values in the block, to me, that's what the purpose of the
Right,
program
we're
is.
building nice houses.
They're really nice quality, and we have to build them.
Should for 360,000.
That's right.
We have to build them quality. I mean, we put the appliances in
Yeah.
because it's sold to someone who's affordable or meeting the income requirements.
Mr. Clark, you have the floor.
Yes, a question for Mr. Nimmer. Don, years ago when this started, I took your exact position and voted against everyone for a while. Then I turned the corner, I started voting for it. As these have come before us before, that you might have been on this committee, what was your position? Same thing?
Negative, yeah.
So you're consistent, I'm not, okay, got it.
Well, I haven't been on this board as long as you have, but I would like to see two things, I guess. One is what are some alternatives, and two is it really $360,000 to build that sort of a house?
Yeah, it is.
Today it is.
It is.
Price of
Yeah,
lumber is
yeah,
up.
yeah. I'm surprised you can do it for $360.
The one that we have in the construction's around that. So.
Yeah. No, it's
The one on
crazy.
National?
And I know in our big projects, assessed value usually comes in at about half of construction costs. So that's kind of a rule of thumb or whatever, so.
This one will be actually probably a little cheaper in the sense that it has an alley, so you don't have to put a driveway in like the one on National. So that one had a little higher cost because of the driveway.
Yeah, are we putting a garage in?
We put a garage in, a car and a half,
Yeah.
so that it provides some storage. You could leave a slab, but
They have
the quality
basements,
in the neighborhood,
basements, yeah.
if we can put the garage in now, it's just
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's
more
probably,
marketable.
Yes.
And I think that somebody will come back and build one. Yeah.
They will not.
And it's
Not the
best for
person who buys
storing.
this house.
It's best for storing people's belongings and other things. So
Oh, Patrick, one quick question. I know we talk about this home program all the time, and it's always capitalized, HOME.
yes,
Is it an acronym? But I've asked you this before, I think.
yeah, it's slipping my mind right now. It is an acronym, HOME.
Yes.
Periods in between.
Yeah.
It's mainly to promote just home ownership.
Well, I understand
and
what,
affordable, yeah.
but I was just wondering what it stands for. And I think
I will email
You
that.
can Google that.
I think I Googled it, I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's a
always
tough one to
pretty generic,
find, actually.
Popular word.
Our technology wizard,
Yes.
Kevin will have it in
Kevin
no
will have
time.
How fast I am.
So I
was
think,
at
I
home,
think
I
part of
Googled
this too in our experience has been is, when we invest in the, a lot in the community, it also encourages other neighbors to invest in their properties. So that's kind of the documented part of it.
Catalyst.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Neighborhood.
Yeah.
Take the
So,
worst house on the block, tear it down, and put up the nicest house on the block.
We actually have one within 2 blocks of this one that we've built.
Yeah.
So there was another one I remember that had a hole in the roof. Unbelievable. Person passed away, and then the family didn't want the house. It was in bad shape, and I remember having to clear that whole house out. So we bought some of the worst homes in the city and have torn them down. There are 2 lots right now Milwaukee County kind of offered to us. Is this one, and there's another one near La Follette Park, right across the street
wow.
on the east side. So that's for sale.
And then
that one
second?
would need a driveway. So we looked at this one right now. Would we do another one? I don't know. We're looking at the development on 92nd and Greenfield to see if we could put home funds into that, possibly. So.
All right. Any further discussion?
For the record, I used to live on that block at 1646 South 59th Street. That's completely irrelevant.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Been moved for approval in a second. Any further discussion? If not, everybody in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Resolution passes, 1 opposed. Item 6, discussion relative to the yards development within the South 70th Street and West Washington Street, TIF number 16. Patrick, you have the
We'll
floor.
talk mainly about this one, Mr. Chair, in closed session, but we did receive a copy of the financial term sheet, and you can see here it's a $19.1 million proposal, and there is a request for a $4.5 million city guarantee on a $4.5 million loan that they would do to the project. And we'll outline that more in closed session.
Thank you. Any further questions? If not, we'll go to item number 7, discussion regarding the Mandel Group proposal, Phase 2 of the market development south of National. Sona. Mr. Patrick, you have the
Same thing, we'll discuss that one in closed session.
All right, and then we'll go to 8, discussion relative to the amendment for the development agreement between the City of West Allis and Lincoln Hospitality Group, LLC, regarding the Lincoln West Corridor Development Project, Holiday Inn Express Hotel, TIF number 17.
So
Patrick?
we bring this one to the CDA's attention. It'll go to Common Council for approval, but this is just to see if you recommend this as well. We've been working with the ownership of the Holiday Inn Express, the developer of the hotel, not Holiday Inn themselves, but the developer of the hotel, which is a local construction firm called Catalyst. And they did everything within the original development agreement, in the sense they would build the hotel, get open by July. They were open by July. But the whole idea of being open in time for this thing that was called the DNC convention that we were supposed to have, and their numbers were going to be performing quite well. Well, as we all know, probably one of the hardest industries hit by the COVID pandemic has been hotel industries or hospitality. And as they open in July, and if you're familiar following anything with the PPP program, they aren't able to apply for any of those because they don't have year-over-year sales. And there's been some discussion, but nothing has really materialized in terms of what programs they could apply to get any help. Well, as of right now, the hotel value is short of the $12.5 million guarantee within the development agreement. So there is an outlot that is supposed to be developed in due time. What staff is recommending is that we waive 2 years of the penalty payment that is outlined in the development agreement. So if they don't hit the $12.5 million, they have to pay a shortfall, kind of a payment there because they didn't hit that number. And it's around $96,000, so $192,000 and some change total is the penalty. And this would provide some MRO relief. So it's a developer-funded TIF that we structured. So they had to borrow the money from a bank, and then they have to make payments to the bank. So they would not get the full taxes that have been generated from the hotel construction, because they would have to pay us the penalty because they didn't hit the valuation point. We believe that that's going to come around when the hospitality industry takes off. We're hearing maybe a year, maybe 2. So that's why we're we're recommending waiving 2 years of the penalty payment. This is not going to impact the TIF. It really impacts their ability to repay the bank on that MRO loan. So this is just extra money that would go to the TIF from the taxes that they produced. So we're recommending this as a small sign saying that we understand what happened with COVID and we're willing to work with you. It's something that we may have to revisit in 2 years to see how, we don't know how this industry is going to rebound, but we also believe that there will be an outlot development which will bring that value above, and we might have to revisit and restructure the whole TIF if that's something of some caliber construction there that we would want. So,
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mr. Weigel.
Patrick, is there a reason to do 2-year forgiveness right now?
well,
Is it part of their structuring their debt with their bank to make their bank happy, or no?
well, it helps them in the taxes that will be coming to pay down that bank note.
Right. What I'm saying is, could we forgive 1 year now, and then maybe in 10 months forgive the other year? I think we're going to see a very strong rebound. I really do. You know, you saw what the Brewers announced today. They're up to
50%.
Well, you know, it was 25. It went to, you know, I mean, I think we're going to see a real, you know, obviously no one's got a crystal ball. Well, what I'm saying is, I think 2 years is.
I mean,
is there a reason to do 2 years?
We picked that one because we thought it was in line. They originally asked for like almost $700,000 worth of assistance.
Yeah.
And we're still looking to see if we can provide some other level of assistance with some of the COVID funds that we received through CDBG CV for job creation, because they did create the jobs here. We just got to look at what our balances are at. But this was something that we could do that really doesn't, you know, providing cash outside.
Right, and we're not writing them a check. I get
Right.
that. I get that.
Yeah.
And I do think probably for some of their financing and bank projections, and if you look at the total package, if they were asking for $700,000, you know, and this is a piece of that.
They asked for a waiver of the shortfall, the guarantee, and we thought this was more of a way to work that and keep the guarantee there so that we can advance development at the balance of the site.
It might inspire them to do.
Right.
Right.
And 2 years seemed logic, was it takes almost 2 years for values to catch up. So that's kind of,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Clark.
It seems to me they would have had a windfall had the convention been held. That's understood. However, the location relative to 894 and Lincoln, it's terrible. And I don't think it's ever going to make it. And if that were to happen, if they never get anywhere with this thing, how does that affect us?
I mean, the value, well, it doesn't affect us. It's the developer-funded TIF.
Okay.
So, I mean, they have to hit their valuations to make their MRO payments. So the taxes generated pays that bank. They have worked things out with the bank in terms of, I think they went to interest only. They're pretty much eating up their reserves on the hotel by July. We've went through all their kind of, what's their occupancies, around 30%. So picks up on the weekends. They've had some very good days. And they are seeing some, I think there was somebody doing some broadband work in the area, and then people were staying there. You can see all their construction. Every time I go to the gym, I drive back that way so I can see what's going on. But
That's what I like to do too, Patrick, remind people how I go to the gym.
yes. Thank you. But I do drive by there just to kind of monitor the situation. It's not that that's a good judgment, but it's just that we're watching to see how it is performing. So.
I get off that exit every day from work, and I'd say the last probably 3-4 weeks, the parking lot's at least been half full.
Right.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, we're starting to see an uptick, which is, I think, industry-wide.
And we'll get numbers on their wind
Yes.
tax. We'll get actual numbers.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark. You had
Thank
something
you.
else to say?
When you say waived, does that get delayed or
No,
forgiven?
we're going to forgive those two
years.
penalty payments. The penalty is just an extra payment that we're taking off of them because they hadn't hit the 12.5. So we get that in the TIF and we hold on to it. They just don't get all the taxes that they've generated off the hotel construction. They'll use towards that MRO payment. So we're helping keeping that on schedule. Otherwise, they could have a shortfall at the end of the period of the TIF that we outlined in the terms of the 9 years that we gave them to do this, so.
So why don't we move those waive payments down to the end of the column, and so they pay us at some point in time?
Pay us in 11 years or 9 years or whatever at the end? No.
Yeah. Why don't we do that?
That's, I mean, if that's what you want to do, I struggle with that because they are financially hurting right now.
Right.
So you're dealing with their current financial hurt. I understand that. But just move that down to the bottom.
But then, I mean, say don't pay it today, but pay it later.
Yeah.
Well, it's a 9-year TIF. You said it's a 9-year TIF?
Yes.
Is that the shortest one I've ever seen?
It is one of our shortest
Yeah.
ones.
So make it 11-year.
What does that do? I guess.
I mean, we can talk about extending the TIF later, but I think we're
I
going to
mean,
be...
I think some of this is, when you look at, and I think our comparable is at Mayfair Mall. I forget the name of that hotel.
Radisson.
The Radisson.
I think it's something
And I
else.
think the package that they got from the city of Wauwatosa was pretty generous because that was a hotel that was in the same situation as, we're seeing here with the Holiday Inn. And I think from a community standpoint, we need alternatives and we want, if you have relatives coming into town, we want the ability that they can stay someplace close by. We don't want them driving to Wauwatosa. We want them staying close and then also utilizing what's on Highway 100 for, just being part of the community. And we've got the one over across from State Fair. So I think with the investments that we've done in the community and the hurt that the industry has seen and the fact that I'm telling you, the money that went through manufacturing concerns and others around the PPP stuff, the other thing that they're not being able to take advantage of, the employee retention credits. I mean, I've got clients, $200,000 a crack they're getting. As far, and these are programs that are out there. I think you alluded to the fact that there's money available through COVID and CDBG, and it's really, helping companies in the entertainment and hospitality industry that really got hit harder than anyone could ever imagine. So.
And I'll say for my business, what I'm getting is based on my previous year's sales or payroll. And obviously, they had no previous year's sales or payroll. And I'm glad that we're able to help them out somehow. The question is, what's the depth of that help? You're thinking they're going to come to us, you're going to want to do something else for them going forward with some other
Well, they had a prospect that was pretty strong looking at the outlot that could provide additional value, and they inquired, would we look at providing TIF for that use? And we said, sure, we'd look at that. That's exactly what we want to get per the Highway 100 corridor.
Okay.
It's a medical building, so usually high value. So that would bring up that above the 12.5, and we won't even have penalty payments to worry about. So,
Right. I mean, that's the goal. That's really the goal, is to get the development.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Don, I wasn't watching you.
I don't necessarily have an issue with Wayne's suggestion. In the business that my wife and I are in, our COVID relief was 2 months of free rent, but added 2 months at the end of the lease, so they got paid eventually. That part of it, I think, makes some sense. And I just wonder if we're a little late in terms of, sounds like we've got a negotiation which is more favorable than the terms that you're asking for. I just wonder if we're a little bit too late in the negotiation for that suggestion.
I mean, we suggested this to them last week as a way to help do something. We can go back and put this on hold and see if they were willing to pay those in later years. Our idea was to keep them focused on getting that outlot developed and show that we were willing to do something today.
Yep.
So.
Which I think should be our focus.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Alderman Haas.
Yeah, I think what staff is proposing is the way to proceed. We're talking about waiving the penalty, not waiving the actual payment. We're talking about waiving the penalty here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm definitely in favor of the full $192,330 being waived.
The consensus
We've outlined
is,
that we've had a meeting with finance on this too. I know Jason is here. Do you have anything you want to add? We just,
I've been listening to your discussion. My main thing is with the TIDS is always, is this going to still perform? The TID still performs even without the penalties in there. So then it's just, I'm okay with it. It's just a matter of policy. Are you guys okay letting go of those penalties as a gift? And then
Next
it's
pandemic.
really
Right.
your choice to make that.
Which will be
that
after our
policy
lifetimes. Yeah.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, I move approval of the waiver of the penalty.
I'll second.
No, I guess I can't third. Oh, shoot. Wanted to third it.
Is there any further discussion? Do we have to vote on it? That's just a
it's a directive.
directive. Well, all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Ayes have it, one opposed. We'll go to number 9. Consideration relative to report on redevelopment initiatives. Mr. Patrick, you have the floor.
60 and selling them for 180. Let's get real. Right, Don?
Sean, I'll outline a few of these. I'm going to flip through the slides, but on this one here, 68th and Mitchell on the UHS. This is a current image. We get usually a weekly report. This is the weekly report we received yesterday, and I'm showing some of the updated images. Things are coming along quickly. Anything?
They have a basketball hoop in the gym?
There's
Wow.
actually a gym.
I was like, where is that? Cool.
Yeah, I don't want to go to that gym. No, thank you.
I'm sure we can make arrangements.
Yeah.
6771, the former Kearney Trekker building. We continue to work with Whitico Development. The big thing they're waiting on is a response for the Department of Energy application for a sort of a unique way to preserve the windows and at the site. So we're waiting to hear back on the response from DOE. That's a big element. The windows are a big element tied to this project. We continue to model numbers with them. They're working through our new market tax credit model. You can kind of see the latest sources and use the sources of funds that they had modeled through it. They're going to be updating that shortly. They said later this week we should get it, but you can kind of see how that lays out. It's very preliminary on those numbers, and then we'll be coming back to you with a request for an extension of the letter of intent for the project. They continue to work through things. We see various floor plans. As you know, they've talked about a distillery, event space, office user, and then having some smaller sort of food vendors that are tied to it as well. Would create a historic landmark and a kind of a in our 6 Points Farmers Market area that people could come and visit. So we're excited about the potential of the project, and we need to keep them moving, and we are trying to do that. So. High 100 corridor, we've heard that there's potentially a national brew pub chain that's working on purchasing the Perkins site.
Tell me it's not Hooters.
It's not.
Is it a brewery actually, or just a multi-tap?
I don't think there's many Hooters
I don't
left.
know those details.
We don't. Yeah.
I don't think there's many Hooters left anymore.
I
No,
think it's called the brew pub, or
it's called,
yeah.
it's got a person's name on it, McGuire's or something like that. No, an animal's name.
It does.
Bulldog, Bulldog, yeah.
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Animal's name, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that
We
they're...
only know it as an inquiry, so that's why we're kind of keeping it.
Yeah.
Festival Foods we know is moving along quickly, and we're excited, for the neighborhood to get that open. National Avenue corridor, can you see progress on the dental office that we provided some assistance with and help them connect the dots in purchasing that. So that's turning out to be a great looking building in the National Avenue corridor over on 71st and National. Baker Square, we continue to work with the group that's looking to potentially purchase that property. They're looking at a potential medical use and then having an outlet that they could develop as well. So we're sort of running through the numbers with them. There's some site challenges with some existing deed restrictions that they have to work through, and where they can build and where they can't build. So
We also received a TIF request, like to structure a TIF here, but we need a lot more information yet on be able to delineate that a little bit, what the prospect is for the space. It might be a growing local business, so we got to figure out if, we move here, what happens there. We don't have all those details yet, so.
Mr. Chair, just a question on the Highway 100. Are we, with this current construction that's going on, are any of the recommendations from the plan that we did, are any being implemented during that construction?
It's just it's a resurfacing, so the state wasn't allowing us to really get in there and dig in and alter things that way. The next time they do a major Highway 100 project is the time, where we really want to be at the table and showing them what we want and what the city's vision is for it, and whether we get that or not is a whole other game. But yeah.
Well, wasn't this originally going to be a major reconstruction?
Right.
And it was
it back.
they had a very broad plan to take properties and frontages and all that, and so
We fought against it.
we fought against it. And so we're calling this a victory now. This resurface, right?
Yep. Yeah. So they pulled back some, but this is just a resurface to essentially. I mean, it's crazy to say just a resurface when you look at what's it's a major
That's
it
it.
impacts.
Oh.
I mean, is it going to get us 10 or
But it doesn't
15
get us
years?
the typical type of pedestrian improvements
No,
that
it
we
doesn't.
want.
No, it doesn't. No.
That's what came out in the study and things like that. So that's part of the long-term vision.
Yeah, but also it doesn't get us 6 lanes of traffic in each direction. And,
Correct.
39 less businesses.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The double left turn lane.
Motor castings, I think we had talked about, you may know that the southern 2 buildings of the motor casting site, there's a manufacturing firm that is going through their due diligence with the property owner and is looking at sort of restoring those buildings and bringing a manufacturing use into that area. And then the former motor castings manufacturing portion of the property, the majority of the site to the north, is likely going to need to be demolished, and it is still owned by the current group that ran motor castings. And so we had a demolition firm out of St. Louis that was interested and was looking at it and partnering with the developer, but I think they ran into some things they couldn't get past legally with the ownership group. I think the ownership group perhaps wanted to limit the amount of testing that could be done and things like that. And so that demo firm walked, and we have a local demo firm that's looking at it, the MRD group. They did the demolition at Ductile. They've done a few big major demolitions for us.
Some of the same concerns are coming up. Again, about access and if the environmental side of things that we'll have to work through. There are some issues of Motor Castings still listed as the owner. Motor Castings is purchased by Dalton Corporation, so there is a viable entity. So, how do you apply for grants to help do some of the stuff with that? So, it's going to take some creativity to figure out how to advance that. However, the site is looking pretty bad to the north, so we'll have to monitor that.
When was that built?
Over 100 years ago.
Okay, so that's why there's
100 years of
environmental.
probably environmental, but the longest I don't know if they've expanded on there over 100 years and things like that. So if they expanded, that means things get buried.
Right.
So that sometimes is challenging. But for our demolition in our city, this is an important thing to note. So salvage companies, I can take all the metal off and then leave the slab, but per our code, you have to remove the slab and the foundations.
Oh.
But now you left an open and exposed site. So the DNR will then want that capped, or remediated. So that's a big exposure. So those are the things that we're trying to work through on this type of site. So,
Is our code unique to municipalities in the area, or is that kind of common practice?
we would like them to remove the footings and the slab. That is a good thing.
We want them gone. I guess that we want a clear site. I get it.
Like there was a previous developer that said we'll build on top of the slab, but I don't know too many structural engineers that would sign off on. And Jim's nodding on this building a new apartment building on top of a 100-year-old footing and slab.
It's just a couple cargo containers with a.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the proctors and the stability of that. So, we said, most likely you'd have to remove all those footings. If the footings are removed, that's also helpful in the sense that when you run utility lines and new foundations, then you can go in there and start construction, versus having to pay the cost to remove them.
I was just concerned that you were hinting at a change in an ordinance here.
No,
Okay, good.
not at all.
No.
The other thing that's unique, and we've talked about this before, is if we raise this and clear it, or whoever does that, and then it sits as grass, the biggest issue, and it's came up before, is the sewage district recognizing this now as a grass lot versus if we left some asphalt here or concrete, it's considered a development site. So that's the new thing since last July. That's the thing we would.
So if it gets cleared, we should just put like 2 inches of asphalt on it, call it a parking lot?
That would help with MSD.
It would help with
It doesn't make sense.
You know,
but it
we'll
would-
call it a park and ride lot for brewer games and state fair or
So I'm
something.
not here to discuss that policy tonight. That's a whole nother. But I bring it up because, this is a prime example of you want to get rid of blight, but at the end of the day, we'll have this issue long term once it becomes grass of the sewage district now requiring more stormwater retention on the site, which then, as we know, possible soil costs to move and how to manage those soils on the site. So that's the philosophy on how to when you approach these sites. So.
Yeah, and do we have a timeline on how long, this is a property in my district with this arose. How long can we leave it grass before they consider it grass? Is it 1 year, 2 year, 3 year? Have they given us any direction on that?
Here's the answer.
No, there is no timeline.
I'm actually not familiar.
I don't recall the timeline on this.
It came up on another property, and they didn't put a time on it. It just kind of surprised us that they wouldn't look back to see what it was before it was demolished.
Right.
3 years.
3 years?
3 years,
So
earlier.
it might be better for us to wait until somebody's ready to tear it down and build it up right
We're
away.
walking through all those.
Or, we talked to the demo firm and they've talked to a few developers and that I guess weren't interested, but we were trying to connect them with others, and we gave them the residential market study that they could pass along to developers. I think the key is like if the demolition firm partners with the developer, and then we have an end game to the project, and then we can start filling in the gaps. I think that's where we need to get with them. So. They have partnered with developers apparently on projects like this before. We'll see.
RD has? No.
I mean,
That's what they represented, but we'll see.
we'll see. Hey,
There's been a number of inquiries. I think a couple brokers inquired about for industrial use, like little industrial buildings, recently. But we rezoned it to commercial. So I think we can possibly track some multifamily back here. We're gonna make some inroads to other developers in this area here to see what they might, and see what the roadblocks might be. But that's what the vision was, and we'll see what we can do to get that. We haven't marketed it in that way yet, so a little bit, but not strongly. But a lot of pieces have to come
How far north does that
together.
connect? Would that have a frontage onto the possible New
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Okay, because that would be good,
It's
right?
actually a prime location and with that
Yeah.
connection road to the north. Yeah.
That potential New Washington Street there.
Okay,
Keep moving.
yep. Oh, closed session,
Closed session?
fun stuff.
Well, yeah.
Are there any other questions regarding any of these items that were brought up for?
Mr. Chair, question for Patrick.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Over the past year, how many restaurants did we lose in our city? Obviously, we lost Baker's Square and Perkins, but how many in total? Do you know?
4.
4? What were the others?
Johnny V's.
Which one?
Which is
Johnny V's.
reopened, which is reopened.
Yeah.
I mean, there's somebody in there.
Oh, it's just not Johnny V's
It's not Johnny
anymore.
V's, it's changed to a different.
But yeah, Johnny V's closed. Farmer's Wife,
It's
Yes.
a new
and then
restaurant.
Perkins and Baker's Square. But all of those got reoccupied pretty much.
Wisconsin Pizza Authority also.
Yeah, and then some of
there's
these,
a taco joint going in
I think there were some pre-existing conditions prior to COVID.
Yeah.
On some of them that I don't know all the details, and nor do I want to presuppose, but some of them may have had that. I mean, the one thing with the pandemic, it did stress a number of businesses, and some people decided to get out of the business. But as we saw, Camino opened, we saw Carrie's Krispies open during COVID, a meat
Yeah.
market open,
The bake shop is open.
The what?
The bake shop.
Oh, the bake sale?
Yeah, bake sale.
The bake sale's coming, yep.
Beecher Street.
So, and then another bakery coming on 92nd Street. So there's a lot of interest.
Flower Girl.
And Flower Girl. So I think things coming out are going to be strong, like you alluded to. We're seeing, and then with Pete's Pops, I know it's a popsicle business. I've never seen so many hits on social media because of a popsicle business.
$4 pops.
Rice Krispie Bars was covered by every news outlet.
They're good.
Yes, and they have a following. And to see that following, they're bringing people to our community. And then we have a recent prospect that said because of those, they want to explore a location here.
Right.
And we're
it's
trying
kind
to
of
find them a new
yeah.
space here in our city. So that's the momentum that we saw prior coming into COVID, and we're going to start seeing that, I think. Well, we're seeing it now, and it's going to continue.
And what about the coffee shop at the church on, I guess that's 6 Points?
Oh, they were closed. They closed before COVID.
They did?
They closed long before COVID.
Yeah.
They at last check, like 4 or 5 months ago, they didn't have a lot of interest in that's a great space. It's an amazing space. And they just, at that time, they didn't have a lot of interest in bringing another tenant in. They wanted to use it internally as part of their what they do with the church.
Is it still a functioning church?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was lots of people that I went by this Sunday.
The thing I want to add about the restaurant closure is the spaces aren't disappearing, and there's always people who want to open a restaurant. There's a large portion, I don't know, there's always people, my dream is to have my own restaurant or whatever. So when a place closes, unless it gets gutted by some sort of foreclosure sale or something, if the exhaust hood is there, the kitchen's intact, that's a leasable space, somebody will go in there. And that kind of turnover is actually good because it's new energy, it's new voices. And we're seeing this generally in this business because so many businesses are owned by baby boomers, okay? You know, on the tail end of the boom, sort of. And I see a lot of people that have been in the business a long time, they're just getting out, you know? Whether it was the last straw or it was just you know, time is up. But those spaces, unless, like I said, unless the landlord kicks them out because they have a higher, better use. But once you build a space out for a restaurant, it's kind of built for that. It's got a real value that's there. So there's always people. I honestly believe there's.
And the reunion should open this month too. I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
6610. So, I mean, the investment is fairly strong, and then the brewery should close here too. So, seeing these new entrepreneurs and the investment, I think that's a positive. I know this isn't on the agenda, but it's a good point to share that. Your question is very good. Yes, there has been some change, but at the same time, we're seeing the new energy and new interests. And the brokerage community, they reach out to us. They're inquiring on behalf of people. We're getting a number of inquiries a week, and
We don't have enough restaurant space.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Alfonso's is still in the process of opening their new location on
Yeah, the
92nd
pizza
Street.
place, yeah.
So somebody else is going in. There's
a Jamaican
restaurant where they are on high. Yeah, there's always a certain amount of churn.
Well, and some of that is, I mean, we've got more apartments that are going on market. I mean,
Now, there are some properties that could be viable restaurants that are vacant right now, but the problem is it's the condition. It's the economics of
Right.
making that deal happen. I can, like the former, I think it's the second generation of the Crawdaddies, the one with the public space next to it on National.
Oh, yeah, Greenfield
and
Avenue.
6500 West
60s.
Greenfield Avenue. I mean, we've been with prospects at those places, and it's going to take a significant amount of investment that there's a fine line what entrepreneurs are willing to do, and sometimes it pushes that discussion a little bit beyond what their budgets are. So the economics of those properties are challenging.
okay, closed session.
No further discussion? Then we'll go into closed session. For agenda items 5, 6, 7, and 8, the committee can convene in closed session pertinent to the provisions of section 19.5, 80.85/1/E of the state statutes for the purpose of delivering and investing public funds whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The committee may convene in open session after completion of the closed session to consider the balance of its agenda.